Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully everyone can hear me. My name is Sherry Phelan, and I am Director of, Online Instructional Design and Faculty Development here at OTC Online. And we're going to talk about active teaching today and what that is and what that might look like in either a seated or online class. And as we go along, if you want to chat in the chat box, I'll try to check over there every once in a while and answer those questions for you. So let's go ahead and get started. There were a couple of other people I think who are trying to get in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Let's just kind of take a look at what does lecture look like in your own online classes or a seated class. What does that look like? When I say lecture, what do you do in your classes? So if you want to just chat in the chat box. Is it written? Is it verbal? Video guests? Good, good, awesome. Verbal in the face-to-face. Good. Okay, added discussion questions during the week on video and reading, synchronous and online. Okay, good. All right, awesome. Yeah, I've done all of those in my class, and hopefully what we talk about today you'll be able to maybe take away and use in your own classes later on. But let's move in to just a little bit of a few numbers, or at least a number for us. A recent study by the National Center for Educational Statistics found that about 83% of college and university faculty rely on the lecture as their primary instructional method. Now when they say lecture, it's probably what that gentleman in the picture is doing right there. He's the sage on the stage, in quotes, the guy who gets up in front of the class and does a lot of talking. Okay, notice the students are sitting there listening, hopefully taking notes, maybe fiddling with their cell phones, whatever. But it's just that's how we picture a lecture, as getting up, talking in front of the class, or in our online classes, it may be a video that you put together, but I think a lot of the online faculty rely on just written text in their classes. You know, the long lecture all written out, students scroll through it, read through it, and that's our lecture. And that's kind of what we've taught in ONL 101 as well. If you think about back when you took OTL 101, and we taught you all to write out a lecture and put it in your course. So that's kind of what our mindset is. We're going to try to look at some different areas where we might be able to change that up a little bit, but I'll get to that in a minute. All right, so what are the benefits of lecture? Well, they got a couple of advantages. First, they transmit factual knowledge, okay? We are the content matter experts. Okay, we want our students to know certain things in the class, whether it's a concept or whatever content knowledge that we want to give them. Okay, so we have a lecture and we transmit that information to our students. Okay, lectures also allow us to customize and organize the class material. Okay, in the way that we see fit. So in other words, we take that information from the text or other resources, and then we customize it and organize it for the class purposes. Okay. Okay, and Susan chatted, I use current affairs to add what students get from the book. Oh, good. Well, Susan, you may have some other ideas. I'm going to get through some things in here, and you may even have some more ideas for us. So I look forward to hearing some of those. But so let's continue looking at what lectures are, what they look like in our classes. Okay, they should communicate more than just information. all right? They should arouse interest and motivation in our students, okay? A lot of times what I did when I was teaching face-to-face at the middle school level, but it works at all levels, was to first get the students interested in the topic. And it might have been a short video clip. It might have been just a probing question that I just throw out. It may be some other kind of interesting and motivational type thing you do at the beginning of the class, okay? Gets them interested, gets them, you know, into whatever topic that you're going to be talking about. Lectures should also promote concentration and attention. Okay, there's got to be a way for students to concentrate on the materials, to pay attention to it. It could be that we're asking questions during the lectures, but whatever the case may be, in case students need to pay attention to it. And lectures should identify and mark the most important information. Okay, your text, the text that we use in our courses, they're full of information, and it's up to us as instructors to pull out that most important information. Yeah, it might all look important, but you know, when we're teaching to the objectives of the course, we need to pull out the important stuff students need to know. They don't need to know all of it, but they need to know the important parts. And then lectures should enable effective cognitive processing, storing, and information retrieval, which I think is just kind of something that happens as we move through our content area. So, okay, so we can see that lectures have a huge place in our classes, whether we're teaching online or seated, okay? It's how we present our lectures, I think, that we should probably take a look at. And again, we're just kind of building up to that, okay? Now, on the other side of the coin, however, we have our dissenters. And one of these is a former president of Harvard, Charles Eliot. And he says, the lecturer, that would be us, pumps laboriously into sieves. The water may be wholesome, but it runs through. A mind must work to grow. What do you think about that statement? Do you think that's true? Or do you think that, you know, lectures are stuff that can students will grab onto and use? I'm just curious what you think about that statement, because so many of us use lectures in the class. So what do you think? Are we just trying to push a lot of information through our students and it's just going in one ear or out the other? Do you think they're holding on to it? What do you think about that? I kind of agree with the guy just personally, but you know, just interested. All right, Tom. Tom says yes for most students. Okay, good. But most have to be actively engaged. Ooh, I like that. I agree with that. And different levels of learning styles are needed online. Absolutely. You know, if you think about it, I'm a visual learner, so I like to see pictures. And for those of you who've been in my sessions a lot, you know that. But I need pictures, graphs, I need things like that. A whole lot of text content bores me, okay? And so if a professor, and I've had professors like this, if they just start talking for an hour and a half, they've lost me after the first 15 or 20 minutes, okay? You know, there's a lot of information that we want to give, but how we give it will influence how our students learn, okay? And hi, Doug. You watched a TED on lectures with Pentecostal energy. Yeah, they've got that might be interesting to see. Hey, send me that link, or send me where I can find that information. I'd like to see that. Yeah, I think anytime that we can engage our students in lectures is really going to be helpful. So should we get rid of it? In a word, no. No, we still need to have some lecture, because lecture is where you as the instructor are putting your experience or experience from others into the content. You're making the content alive for your students. but we shouldn't get rid of it. It's an important part of student learning, okay? But again, it's how we do it, okay? And I thought I'd throw this in here because every once in a while I get a question about lectures. Should they be short? Should they be long? And so I kind of just put this together. Just remember that the attention span of your students is short. And I don't care if we're talking about the 18-year-olds in your classroom or, you know, anybody older than that, okay? The attention span is going to be short. There's things going on in their lives. They're not going to be wanting to sit around and reading a lot of text lecture, okay? And then it's helpful to provide a variety of formats. Yes, we can have that written text in our courses, all right? But we might want to consider other things like videos or audios or some other formats. We're going to talk about some different formats. And this is where when we see developments of like our master shells or development of courses, a lot of times instructors will copy and paste passages from the text. You know, you've got an ebook, you just go and you're in a hurry, got to get a lecture set up, just go through and start copying passages out of the text. Well, you know what? Your students can read that. Well, most might or might not read that, but in my experience, students don't read the text, but there you go. But you want to avoid repeating passages from the text. What you want to do is add real-life experience to your lectures. Maybe it's something you experienced in your career or your life that you can add to that lecture. Or use examples from current events or popular culture, you know, things like that. Students want, we need to relate the topic that we're teaching to life or maybe a future career for them. And I think the key thing here is to make sure that our lectures are short and succinct. In other words, be very pointed, be brief but very pointed, pull out that stuff that the students need to know, okay? So that's just kind of an overview on creating your lectures. Yeah, I like that, Doug. Tell a story. You betcha. And tell a story and show your face if you can. You know, videotape yourself telling this story. Tell you what, students like to see you in your class, especially in your online classes. So a lot of times, especially in Camtasia, you can take and load up your PowerPoint, and then you can put your little picture down there at the bottom while you're speaking. Oh, great, great. Students love that stuff. Okay, so lectures. All right, so, it goes along with gamification, turning a lesson into a game. You know what, we need to do a PD session on gamification. If you guys have been using something like that, where you're taking lesson content and making it into a game, let me know about it. I think there's a lot of interest out there for that, and we haven't really gotten into that a whole lot here, especially at OTC, so I think we should probably look at gamification. I think it's a great idea. Oh, Blackboard has some tools for it. Leaderboards. I'm gonna have to check into that. Check with my Blackboard people over here. Okay. So we know a lot of lecture is bad and a little bit is good. So how do you get the concepts and ideas out there for the students? Well, I say let's get them active. They need to get active in their learning, okay? This is where you're going to require us changing things up a little bit, okay? We need to get out of that mode where we think that the students need to read it all, okay? Or maybe view videos all the time. Those things are good. But there's other things that we can do. So that brings up what is that? I ran across this a couple of months ago and I was like, active teaching. Well, I've heard of active learning, but what is active teaching? And I thought, yeah, well, I'll run with this on a PD session. So active teaching, it's a focus on active learning activities, okay? It breaks away from that lecture format, where you get on there and you're just writing all this stuff up. It's good stuff. We're putting it out there on our online course, okay? But we're not really doing anything else with it. All right, it's just a bunch of text, or maybe just a video, okay? Students, and this is maybe kind of a if for us, for all of those of us who have went through teacher training or whatever. This is a constructivist type of learning theory, okay? Students are not considered passive receptacles for knowledge imparted by the instructor, okay? They need to take an active role in their own education. That's how we learn, okay? It's how we learn. We take an active approach to learning. And so we need to take an active approach to teaching, okay? We need to move on from like a formal lecture, okay? And I threw up this, no I didn't, I put up this fact right there at the left-hand corner. Online lectures can sometimes be dull to students. Now, I didn't just make that up. I just found that like today, and I thought I'm going to put that in there. I don't even remember where I got it. I think it was from Towson University or something, which I have their little picture here. Online lectures can sometimes be dull to students. You know what? That is true. And I took a look at my own course. I'm teaching at another university, just one online course. And I looked at my lecture, and I would show it to you, except that it's proprietary information, and they wouldn't let me. for this PD training, they wouldn't even let me show you. So you have to take my word for it. But my first lectures out there was just a bunch of wordy stuff. Okay, I threw in a couple of pictures, threw in a couple of charts because it's a management course, and that was it. I thought, you know what, as I've gotten more and more into this, I've been adding a few more things. I've been adding interactivity, okay, like adding links to other sites or adding multimedia. I mean, this is stuff we've probably all been doing in our classes. We can do this in a seated class as well, okay. But adding links within the lecture that require the user to make choices. Those are things like surveys or polls, okay? And how many of you have used surveys or polls in your classes? Oh yeah, VoiceThread. Oh my gosh, that's a great one. If you've not been using VoiceThread in your class, you should. It's a great thing for interactivity. Students can get on there and record stuff and write stuff. It's great. Okay, and Susan, you've used polls and surveys. Yeah, and I think they're good, and they're a great way to add to that lecture, okay, including appropriate images. I think we teach that in the OTL 101, you know, putting some images out there. And I've been doing some course reviews, came across a course that was all text. There were no videos, there were no images. You know, it was just plain, there was no banner. You have to think about what your students think when they go into a class like that. Okay, they see nothing but text. And for some students, for some of our learners, okay, that's a difficult thing. That's a difficult thing to get around, okay? Some like it, some don't. So we got to think about all those students. Asking questions that engage student thinking, adding that interactivity. So you do a little chunk of lecture, and then you have students go to a discussion board and discuss it. Okay, and then come back and do another little chunk of lecture maybe, okay, and engage that student thinking. And then recommend further research or inquiry. I tend to do that often, especially with current events. I'm teaching an organizational change management class. And in that class, we talk about, you know, organizational changes like with the Apple Corporation when Steve Jobs left and Tim Cook took over, okay? And I had them go out and research that. What is the difference in those leadership styles and how did that change the organization, okay? Recommend further research. Have them go outside that lecture area and, you know, pull in those concepts on their own. Okay, that's part of that active learning, active teaching. And I don't know, probably about a week ago, I came across this website, and you can look at it later. It's just a big 50 alternatives to lecture in online courses, and I'll send this out to you again, but we're not going to review all 50. But what I do want to go over are some of the ones that I thought might be useful to us. And I've also went out and looked at some of our courses here at OTC and picked out some examples of these. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Now, I I started doing screenshots, and I was going to take you out to these instructors' websites, but then a couple of them got a little bit, no, don't do that. So anyway, so I brought in just the information from their lessons just to kind of give you an idea. So here's an example from an art class. All right. This is an example of active teaching in which this instructor has asked the students, the lecture is on modern art, okay? And in this course, and in this lecture, she gave just a little bit of lecture, had the students go out and kind of do a little research on modern art, and this was the activity. This is the activity that is part of that lecture, okay? And what she's having the students do is to produce a work of art, okay? Using the information from her lecture and supplementing her lecture. So the students would go out, maybe copy, you know, one of the great artists and create their own work of art. So some of them went out and painted stuff. Some of them went out and took an art app or something like that and created that, took a picture of it and posted it out on the website. And this is one of their pictures right here, which I don't know anything about art, okay, but what I do know is this is a great way to not only supplement that lecture, okay, but make that lecture come alive for these students. Because once they have to go out and they have to do that research and research a great artist and pull in those characteristics of the great artist and then create their own artwork, okay, this is a real good example of this active teaching style and active learning. Okay, so this is an example from an art class. And I try to hit some of the high points, some of the other areas. Now, I like to use the textbook as a supplement to my courses. Will I have students read an entire chapter? Not so much. I may have them review it. But what I try to do is I try to bring in activities where they have to use the text without really having to read it from start to finish, okay? And a few of these ways is to do a discussion that requires the students to summarize the reading. So yeah, they might have to go out and read a lot of the text to summarize the reading, or maybe a passage from the text, okay, and summarize that. Ask students to come up with their own discussion questions from the text. Provide discussion questions that require students to synthesize material. That's sort of like number one. And then provide an activity that requires students to apply the information from the reading. And this is where we see active teaching, active learning going on. Providing an activity that requires students to apply the information. Now, I'm going to ask you, how would you do this in your own class? All right, think about your text. What kind of an activity might you do to help students apply the information from the reading? And I'm just going to sit here and just watch and see what we have here. Oh, write a bill and oh, very good. I like that. Yes, absolutely. Writing a bill. That is a great way to incorporate those concepts from the PLS classes. Excellent. What else do we use out there? What kind of activities do you come up with where the students might have to use the information from the text or apply it? Well, I know when I taught an accounting class one time, I had the students had to create, you know, a financial statement, you know, the debit and credit and all that kind of good stuff. I've done that before in an accounting class. Oh, and I think for a biology class that I taught, and this was at the middle school level, they had to peer teach, okay, using information from the text or using information from a lecture, okay. Oh, good. In CIS, we have About Me, PowerPoint assignments. Good, using that PowerPoint. Good, good. Making a clear reference to the text in a written assignment. Absolutely, that's huge, and that shows some research skills as well. Good. Write a lesson or make a screencast. Yeah, you know what? When students have to write their own lesson or to teach other students, that's huge. They really, truly learn from that. So good. Excellent. Excellent idea. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at an example from an English class. All right. The lecture topic here, the lecture was on persuasive writing. And the instructor had an article by this author. And the instructor also made a video. Okay, so this is also the article and the video were both supplementing that lecture. They were part of the lecture. Okay, she had the students not only read her short lecture, okay, they also read through an article, a current event article. She made a video, and then she had them go out to the discussion boards and post their reactions to it. Okay, so we see a lot of different things going on here with this lecture. There was an article they had to read, there's a video they viewed, and then a discussion. Okay. Another thing she might have done is, and if there was time for this, could have had students create their own videos and post those out there as well. Okay. This is all part of the lecture. Okay. All right, that's an example from an English class. This is just one of those things from those 50 alternates to online lectures. It's creating what's called buzz groups, or if you want to think of it as small groups, but I like buzz groups because that sounds kind of cool. But it's taking a lecture topic and letting students form their own learning. So you're dividing your students up into groups for just a period of time, maybe just a few days. Give them to discuss an assigned topic, and then bring that topic or a problem back to the whole class for discussion. Okay, is good for small group interactions. Then you're bringing it back to the full group. Okay, and this again is, you know, you're giving them a little bit of information through a short lecture, and they're then forming their own learning. Okay. By going out and researching or discussing a lecture topic. Okay, it's a great technique to get participation from most of the individuals in a group. As we all know, group work can or can't work. It just depends on the group and how you're grading it and all that kind of good stuff. But buzz groups are a great way to incorporate another aspect of lecture in your classes. Okay. All right. What have I got next? Ooh, an example from math class. All right. For this lecture activity, the teacher, or it could be a student, puts a multi-stage problem out there, okay, or they might start a multi-stage problem, and other students are called in to help solve that problem, okay. Again, this is maybe another small group setting, okay. Another variation of this is the students are given a list of solutions, and then they're asked to create a problem to which it is the answer. Okay, so either way it works. You can start the problem out and have students solve it, one student after another. Each student takes a step and solves it, or you can give them the solution and have them work out the problem themselves. Again, this is another way to enhance your lectures in class, especially in a math class, or it might even work in like a chemistry class as well, or any kind of problem solving that you might need to do. All right, that's an example from the math class. And I think Susan brought up guest speakers. Wow, I'm telling you, great guest speakers are great. Students, they look to us as, the know-it-alls in our class, okay? We know it. We're the ones who provide them the information, the knowledge, and, they hold us up to that. But when you bring in a guest speaker, that changes a whole lot of thinking in the class, okay? And, it really holds the student attention more than they probably do with us as the instructor. So I've had them come in on collaborate sessions Or in a seated class, I've actually had them come in and we put it up on the screen in the classroom itself, in which the guest speaker just comes in and talks to them. If you're able to, the students can ask questions and the guest speaker can answer back. Or alternatively, the guest speaker can post a lecture and then be available for 2 to 3 days to answer questions from the group. So maybe the lecture can be put out there in the discussion forum, and then the students can ask questions and the guest speaker can answer. It's another great way to add to that lecture. Students can learn what is happening in the real world, and then the speaker can bring in outside resources. And it's just great. Students really like this. Okay, let me go back over here to the chat for just a minute. You could assign a group of students to make a mashup lecture. Each student takes a part of a round robin. Yeah, that's a great idea as well. Good. You guys are full of ideas. Excellent. All right. This is another OTC instructor active teaching style. And since my minor is in biology, I kind of get excited about this kind of stuff. But in this particular lab, the students would go to the Cornell University Great Backyard Bird Count. Can I try that again? Great Backyard Bird Count science project. And what this instructor did was have the students go out and observe and count for 30 minutes on one day. And the lecture topic here was types of diversity. So the instructor was looking for student feedback on the different types of birds they were seeing. What was the diversity? Were they all robins? Were they, whatever the, species was or whatever it was. But they had them do this, and then the students went out and posted their findings out there on the discussion forum, and then they chatted a little bit about what they found. So this is a great example because the lecture topic was diversity, but this was an active teaching style. It was having students getting involved in that lecture, okay, by doing an activity. So this is an example from a biology class. You know what, I may not have anything on history in this class, in this session. I missed that one. One of the things that I've done in both college and secondary level is field trips. I've done virtual field trips, but what field trips do, and sometimes they're hard to find out there on the net. It depends on the internet. It depends on your content area, I think. History is huge for this, but it really increases, really helps your lecture to have something like this incorporated, because it goes out and students can start to make a connection between the content and that real world, and it's really engaging to them. They can see a different perspective on things. And in this particular lesson, students would go out, do the virtual field trip, return to the course, and report on their experiences to the class, or in small groups. I've also seen where students have videotaped the field trip and then turn it into the instructor, or they put it out on the discussion and then they view each other's videotapes, which is really cool. But field trips are just another way to supplement your lecture. Okay, here is let's see. Yeah, here is from a business law class. Okay, a court visit. This sort of is a tangent of the field trip. But this is where students themselves, they're not sitting behind their computer, they're actually going out and attending a legal proceeding in a courtroom where the instructors instructed them to take notes. And then, they take a look and describe what they've seen, what they heard, what the issue was, what was discussed, what did the judge rule. But again, for this lecture, it was on criminal law, torts, intellectual property rules, product liability, those kind of legal things in the business world. And I think this is a great example of getting the students involved in the content area for that particular lecture. So just another great example of active teaching. And I think this next one, many of us do already, an article summary on a lecture topic. What I like about article summaries, and this can be done in a discussion forum or a wiki or however you want to do it, but the benefits are, although the text presents something and then perhaps we bring in, as instructors, we bring in our own real-life experiences. I think to have students go out and research that and kind of see like a current event or something that's happening in the content area right now is a good way to build on that learning experience, to build on that lecture that we're giving in our course. It brings in those outside resources, and it also helps with those research skills. I think all of us, regardless of our content area, want our students to be problem solvers and to go out and to practice those research skills. So an article summary, you know, I don't like to do a lot of those, but I think for some topics, an article summary is a good thing, and so I know I've got those in you know, lessons in my courses, so it's something to think about. But it helps with that lesson, helps students make you know, a connection to what we're teaching in our lectures. Okay, and I just think it's just a good thing to have. Okay, and then finally, and I think this might be my last example, this is from our communication class, COM 105 class. And the lecture topic was improving your verbal and nonverbal delivery. Whew. You know, when you're a student and the first time you have to get up in front of a class and do a speech, you're probably petrified. Okay, well this is in the online environment, so the students have to videotape this, I believe. That I'd have to look at that. But anyway, what they had to do is to pay a tribute to a person, a group of people, or an organization. So it's a tribute thing. And the ultimate goal was to demonstrate why the subject was worthy of praise and admiration. Okay, and what they were looking for there was creating a 3 to 4 minute speech with a focus on delivery skills. And so while they were commemorating someone, the focus was on the delivery skills. I just think, which for this particular lecture topic, this was a great active teaching, active learning type skill to build on. So another good example of that. Okay, and knowing most of us here, oh, how about roasting? I hadn't even thought about that. Good idea, Doug. That might be an interesting video shoot there. Yeah, I kind of like that though. Yeah, if anybody ever does that, let me know because I'd like to watch that. All right, video and audio. All right, I think when we write out our lectures, what I like to do is I'll outline my lectures and then I'll go in and create a video. And I look really dumb and I sound terrible on video, but you know what? The students don't care. They don't care. You know, I think we're harder on ourselves when we create our video and audio files. And you know, but it's good. It's good for the students to see you. It's good for the students to hear you. It helps your audio, you know, your auditory and your visual learners. You're going to have those learners who love that text-style lecture. Okay, they love to just go out and read it, or they'll download it and copy it and read it later, whatever. But for your learners who aren't text-based, they might need that. They might need that video and audio. Now, it might not be a video of you speaking. It may just be a video to supplement that lecture that you have, but I think it's a good thing to have those options in the course. So let's see. Okay, if you're using audio and visual, it says assign discussion questions or projects on the topic, so you can do that as well. So, okay, I'm going back over to the chat. On the video, there are new online tools for adding call-outs to existing YouTube videos. Oh, really? I did not know that. I'm going to check into that. We also have, for you iPad people, there's a new app. It's called it's called Voice. Something like that. I just posted it out on our Facebook page. We are doing a PD session on that coming up in June. So be looking, Adobe Voice. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't remember it. It had voice in it, and I posted it, but I just couldn't remember it. Yes, Adobe Voice. It's for your iPads. It's a free app. It allows you to make short video presentations. And we are on it. We have a PD session. Philip Arnold and Barry Talbot are going to be presenting that in June, so be looking for that if you're an iPad person. I'm sorry, I'm an Android user, so I have to wait till Adobe comes out with the Android version, but it's really good. It will be a great way for you to do lectures in a video type and audio format for your students. Okay, so let's wrap this up. What are some do's and don'ts? I don't like to say do's and don'ts, but this is what the chart says, so I'll put it on here. It says use online lecture strategies sparingly. What they mean by that is your written stuff, okay? Your written lectures. Don't have pages where students have to scroll and scroll and scroll. If you can avoid that, sometimes we have to. Okay, I know like in history classes and things like that, there's a lot of information to give. Sometimes we have to have a lot of the written stuff. But let's supplement that with other activities, which goes down to the next one, add interactivity. Okay, let's put out some images that are appropriate. Let's put out some videos, some audio, things like that, okay, for our lectures. Make it user-friendly. I know the first time the people were using VoiceThread, the students got all confused and things like that. Once they get used to it, once they've used it in several classes, it's not a problem. So online lectures should be user-friendly. You want your students to go out and get your content, okay? You don't want them to skip over it, so make it user-friendly. Supplement it with an advanced organizer or outline. You can do that. I've done organizers. If you don't know what those are, that's kind of a separate topic. I didn't cover it here, but those are also good things to add to your lecture. Use sound graphic design principles. That's just, don't be putting out a bunch of pictures that don't mean anything to your lecture. That's what that means. And then ask open-ended questions. Okay, and require your students to respond. And notice that require in there. Okay, may need to be graded. Okay, ask those open-ended questions about your lecture. Get them involved. Get them active with the lecture. Okay, and that may require asking those questions and having them get out there. And that's what our discussion boards are for. And supplement the lecture with other learning activities. We went over a bunch of those, from buzz groups to article summaries to virtual field trips, guest speakers. Okay, those are some of those other lecture activities that you can do. Okay, now what you don't want to do, what you want to avoid, is posting PowerPoint slides by themselves. Okay, don't just, I don't know about you guys, but I have a problem with the publisher PowerPoint slides, because basically they're just taking stuff from the text and putting it on a slide. And yeah, it does give a visual, but sometimes there's 50 or 60 slides per topic. That's kind of too many. I like to create my own, put my own voice as an instructor, put my own content in there, my own experiences, my own career experiences, things like that for students. But you know, don't post them by themselves. Go out there, give a voice to it, give some kind of presentation to your PowerPoint slides, if you can. And don't use online lectures to expect students to memorize materials. I think we try to get away from memorizing material. Well, history probably doesn't, and some other subject areas probably don't. Sometimes you do have to memorize, but don't expect your students to memorize a lot of material. It's just not going to happen. And don't repeat a textbook. Like I said, I've seen instructors copy and paste right from the text and put it out there as their lecture. Try to avoid that. Try to put it in your own words as much as possible, because that holds more meaning for your students and you know, gives you ownership of your lesson. So, okay. Have I ever had students grade my lectures? No, but I should, and I can tell you there's some they would probably give me an F on. Simply because there's a whole lot of reading and graphs and whatnot, and not enough video content. I have a bad habit of not putting my face out there enough or my voice out there enough for my students, and I think that they would probably appreciate if I would do that more. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, need a general tool in Blackboard to give stars to any item. Yeah, I think we'd probably, I know I would be disappointed probably in a lot of cases. I'd probably get like maybe 1 star or a half a star on my lectures. I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure my students would probably do that. I can tell you my lectures, some of them are probably pretty boring to students, and I try not to, and I'm working on that. But there's a lot of things that you can incorporate in your lectures and for your lectures to help your students. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for just a few minutes. If you want, if you have questions, you can always contact me. My email address is there, phelines@otc.edu, or you can email us at online@otc.edu. It's just important, and you know, I think the mindset is so much is just getting up there like I'm doing, like doing all the talking. But I think our students would be much more engaged and motivated in our courses if we can take and just make a little bit of lecture as a written text and getting the students and drawing them into our lectures by activities. And I think that's where we're going to see more student learning going on. And I've seen it. I've seen it happening here at OTC. I've seen it in our online courses. And all of the examples I gave today came right from those courses. Even though I couldn't show them to you, they came right from those courses. And I think they're great examples of how we can incorporate this active teaching in our courses. And oh, there's the gamification. Okay. Yeah, you know what? If any of you guys are using games or want to do a PD session or anything on that, let me know. Because I think I love games. And I think it's a very useful learning tool for almost any content area. And I don't think that it's been explored enough. And I think that's something that we can look into more. And maybe we could even, I don't know. I just like to see it. So yes to gaming chat. Mark me down. All right. We can, yeah. Let's look into that. Shoot me an email sometime if you have used that or want to use that or want to contribute to a PD session. We'll work on that. Okay, so here we go. And that is all I have for today. And if you have any other ideas for PD sessions or anything, let me know. And oh my goodness. Thanks, Doug. There's some more gamification information. Thank you. You know what, I'm going to pull those off of there, and I will send those out when we send out your certificates so you guys can take a look at that, some of that stuff, and let me know how that goes. So yeah, well, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day and joining me for this session. I think for June, I think we've got some Blackboard sessions coming up. And I don't think I have any pedagogy or best practices session for June. Be looking for stuff in July, but I really appreciate you being here. And yeah, have a good summer if I don't see some of you guys again. And good luck.